All right, so it's 5:33. We'll go ahead and get started. And for those who are joining, you can, if you have a question, feel free to use the Q&A or the chat window. So welcome to our Wellness Wednesday webinar. Tonight we have Lori Bruscher with us. She is the CEO and owner of Rising Tides Healing Center. She also has a background in social work and counseling, and I will not try to introduce her credentials because I will mess them up. So I will definitely pass it over to Lori. But tonight we're going to talk about the impacts of trauma on the emotional and physical body. And I can't think of anybody better to represent this topic than Lori. And I'm just absolutely pleased, Lori, that you're here with us tonight. So thank you very much.
My
So
pleasure.
with that, I'm going to pass it over to you to do an introduction, and
Sure.
We'll take it from there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Catherine. And likewise to you. I don't try to describe what you do when I'm trying to tell people about thermography. I send them to your social media and to your webpage. So it's a good working relationship. We have our own role. So yes, my name is Lori McIsaac-Bruscher, and yeah, I'm the owner of Rising Tides Healing Center. So the Healing Center is actually fairly new. We just sort of launched this building and program actually I bought the building in July, and we've started rolling some things out, including the thermography mobile clinic here. We had our first one this week, which was great. So a little bit about me, I guess. Where do I start? I've been a social worker for about 20 years. So most of my career actually has been spent in kind of miscellaneous government jobs. I'm from Nova Scotia originally, kind of landed in New Brunswick about 15 years ago, but I consider myself really fortunate because I think all those experiences kind of led to me to where I am now. Sometimes I jokingly refer to myself as the littlest hobo. I kind of go do my thing, and then I'm down the road to the next stop making some new friends. So when I was in my government jobs, I've always really enjoyed working with people. And about 3 years ago, I took that plunge into private practice. I just felt like I had the experience. It was the right time in my life. And I just kind of wanted to see what I could do working one-on-one with people. So over the last 3 years, a lot of things have kind of happened for me personally and just kind of in my work life. And one of those things was as I got into my private practice and I was getting to meet clients, and when I opened my doors, I kind of opened them to everybody. I was kind of like, let's see what people need and see what I might be able to offer. And I noticed sort of a recurring theme that a lot of the clients that were coming to see me were saying kind of like, I've been in therapy off and on through my life. I do well for a little while, but then I always seem to kind of go back into the same patterns. Or I'd have the clients that would come to me and say, I don't know what's wrong. Something's not clicking. Like I'm just not happy or I'm not satisfied. And it kind of just, I guess being new to private practice got me seeking. So I started sort of getting curious a little bit about what are those missing links for people, because social work and therapy has so traditionally been based in talk, right? Like a lot of my schooling and education has been around cognitive processes and relationships and social structures, and those things still exist and they're still really important. But I guess what brings me to talking to you today is sort of an understanding that as I've gotten to know people and understand how trauma settles in our body, I started hearing the conversations with clients a little bit differently. Yeah, and I think sometimes that I don't know what it is. I don't know, why can't I get over this? Is sometimes that trauma settling in. So we can learn strategies, we can learn things to kind of help us manage. But if we don't get to the roots of what's contributing, we're likely going to still be experiencing some of those same things.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of getting curious about trauma. Did you have a question for me? Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things.
Stop me every once in a while because I can ramble.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. This is all very valuable information for people, right? Because we know that trauma has an impact emotionally, mentally, and physically on the body and how that shows up in various ways. And so, you mentioned about, trauma being stored in the body and what you were starting to see differently. So can you talk to us about, from your perspective, how is trauma stored in the body?
Yeah. So trauma can get stored in different ways. But I guess when I think about trauma, so this was sort of the evolution of my practice a little bit, actually, was instead of just focusing on the thoughts that go along with our experiences, I've started getting the clients I work with to tune into their bodies. So there's a whole lot of things we can learn from our body when we stop long enough to just listen to it.
Right.
And so with trauma, what happens is we have experiences. So I guess this is where I was kind of start going to. When I did my social work training, nobody ever showed me a picture of the brain, the nervous system, the vagus nerve. Like I knew nothing about anatomy. That was never kind of a part of
Okay.
our learning. So I feel like where therapy is moving towards, and I think it's a good place, is that we're starting to understand that when trauma happens to us, it doesn't just affect our mind or our thoughts, it affects our brain, our nervous system response, how our body responds to things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine, and actually, if I can just stop and interject myself for a moment, I think it's important to clarify when we're talking about trauma. Trauma isn't always, the big T trauma. Like we tend to know what big T trauma is. It's, people exposed to death, accidents, child abuse, those are traumatic events that we would all universally agree would be difficult.
Yeah.
But there's little T traumas too, right? And sometimes little T traumas can be things like bullying, neglect, not having your needs consistently met, feeling shamed, feeling ridiculed.
Right.
And we don't always give ourselves enough credit to recognize the impact some of those situations have on our system. So when I'm speaking about trauma, I am actually speaking about big T or little T trauma. And we all have trauma, right? Like we might not all be, responding to it in the same ways, but we've all got our stuff that has happened and influenced how we respond. So in our brain, when we're facing a threat or we're facing a situation that our body kind of recognizes as, this is different, this is a threat to our system, most of us know about fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
So I think that it's important to understand that part of fight, flight, or freeze is we stop thinking. The first thing that happens actually when we're in a traumatic situation is our brain kind of shuts all the non-essential functions, got to go out the window because we're in survival mode right now. So if you're in a fight or a flight, your heart rate increases. You hear those stories of people like the strength to lift up a car when they have that adrenaline surge, and our body just does it without us thinking about it.
Yeah.
So when you've been exposed to trauma and you've had that fight or flight reaction, and your brain is looped in that process of remembering it or experiencing it, your body, even if you're, 20 years later and you're safe in your home with people you feel safe and secure with, your body can still be running that adrenaline or running that sensation that you're not safe. And when the analogy I sometimes think about is, it's kind of like revving a motor in a car, right? You're not supposed to rev the motor incessantly or you'll burn it out. And I don't know that much about cars, but I'm sure you'll do bad things to it. Well, your body kind of runs the same way, right? So when you really think about trauma being stored in the body, not only is it's about kind of how we continue to respond to threats, because our brain remembers, oh, I was in a threat before, and this feels similar to the threat I experienced the last time. So I'm going to turn into my system. Our brains are almost too smart for our own good. They just know what to do. And then the other side of that is what happens when we experience hard things, when we experience painful emotions, painful memories, things that make us feel shamed or vulnerable. We really don't like to feel those things. So what do? Stuff it.
Stuff them.
Yeah. And stuffing things in your body and not releasing it is pretty much like stuff in the garbage can when it needs a fresh bag, because, all that weight of the emotion can just settle right into your system.
Absolutely. Then which then causes, inflammation and disease and things like that to show up, right? Because the brain and the receptors in the brain, they remember that trauma. So if it's a noise that's associated with the trauma, that noise could also be associated with causing pain in your shoulder.
Absolutely.
Right. So in some of the studies that are out there that links, the trauma and how the brain connects to that again is just, it's amazing.
And again, that's what's been so fascinating about the work I've found myself in, is that at one point in time, if I was dealing with someone with chronic pain, for example, a lot of it would be on kind of techniques, strategies, what can you do to manage it? And now I kind of come at chronic pain from a totally different angle, because it's almost like, what is that pain? Because pain, you know this better than I do, like pain is hard to measure, it's hard to hold, it's an experience we have within our body. So sometimes when people are experiencing pain, you know, I'll get them to get curious about their pain. Like, what is that? When did that pain start? You know, how does that pain impact your body or your system? Because we can listen to our systems. I totally believe that all our healing can happen within our own system. I might be the therapist, you might be the thermographist, we can enlist many healthcare professionals, but at the end of the day, we're your guides, your coaches, you know, that healing, really, your body has the ability to heal itself.
Absolutely. It just needs all the right tools, right? And what we do is an extra tool, but at the end of the day, the person has to be the one to do the work.
Absolutely.
Because that's where it resides. So
yeah, and I guess that's kind of the big message that I really try to spread, is that you can heal, right? Because sometimes it can feel so hopeless, you know, when you've lived in a pattern your whole life, or you've had a pain, or you've had a disease, or you've had something that you're chronically been dealing with. There's always hope for healing, right? Like,
and I find too, you know, it's fear, right? There's a lot of fear that's related. I mean, not, you know, obviously with the trauma, we're talking about that, but trauma can also be caused by fear, right? So if people do end up sick or something happens, you know, an event, whether it's a big T or a little t, like you said, there's still fear associated with that. And then that fear turns into trauma, because fear is probably one of the biggest ones, right? So
absolutely. And I think we have to be gentler with ourselves, because I think sometimes people have a tendency to go, I don't have the right to feel this way because somebody else has it so much worse than I do, or, you know, it's not fair for me to compare myself. My situation is different, but you know what? We all have permission. We all need permission to take care of our own selves and our own needs, and everybody matters, right? There's nobody that's excluded from that. And part of my work in therapy that I love is that I've come to a realization that, you know, therapy isn't just about the therapist doing to the client. It's about the therapist has their own kind of presence in the room. So when you talk about the emotional and physical impact, I also consider myself a helper in healing, because I bring to the situation my own nervous system. You know, there's that reciprocated. So it's not just knowledge, you know, there's a whole lot of things that have to happen between two people to heal. People can't heal alone, right? You need the relationship, the connection, the nourishment of another person's physical body in order to heal your own body. So when you think about it, think about depression, think about loneliness, you know, think about, you know, unfortunately, COVID and the isolation and, you know, being away from our colleagues and schools, like that has a really devastating impact on our ability to heal ourselves, because we need that relationship with other people.
Absolutely. We weren't designed to be single, right?
We weren't.
We're designed to be part of that pact, right? And that pact can be your friends, or, you know, your therapist, or whomever it might be, but surrounding yourself with the right people, and, you know, the various, there's so many various people out there to be able to help support. And oftentimes, you know, I find just even with some of my clients that I know that have experienced trauma as well too, it's being confident enough to reach out and to share with somebody of what they're experiencing. And sometimes they don't even know, you know, who to reach out to. So, you know, it's I guess my message to people is, you know, unless you speak about it, right, it's really hard to help. But
it's so true. And as you're saying that, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, that's the idea of the Healing Center, actually, is to create a sense of community and to bring people together and have the helpers, the right helper for the right person, because not everybody needs the same team. I mean, we are a little program that, you know, if I'm having a mental health issue, then I need a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but, you know, maybe I need a little yoga in my life too, or maybe I need a little, you know, just a different approach for me, because I'm different than somebody else. So I love that idea of the right fit for the right person. And the other thing that you made me think about was sometimes with people, I say, I have the advantage of sitting in the chair I sit, which is I get to talk to a lot of people. So I kind of know you're not alone because I get to talk to people all day who
Right.
go through similar things. But when you're going through it,
You feel alone.
it's a pretty lonely place to be.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is.
So I actually just wanted to make a little comment too around some of the therapy I've been doing in terms of
Yes.
like EMDR. So the reason why I wanted to bring it up because so EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it is a trauma therapy in which we would desensitize traumatic memories, and the word is reprocess, but I use the word adapt a lot. So it's kind of like taking those painful things that we don't want to think about or feel anymore.
Right.
And with the support of a therapist, we replicate actually the eye movement. So when you're sleeping and you're having REM sleep, your eyes would go back and forth as it files all the information of the day. So it's like we're replicating that, but you're awake and we're filing the information in the appropriate place so that you don't have to keep reliving it over and over again. So I guess why I was thinking about it earlier when I was talking about nervous systems is when I work with clients who have PTSD or who have been through a traumatic experience, a big part of EMDR, we're accessing the brain network where the trauma is stored, but we're also accessing the physical
Body.
places. Absolutely. And we get clients to notice, where are you feeling it? Where are you experiencing it? How is it? Yeah. And as we move through processing, it's the most powerful thing I've ever experienced for sure. And I think my clients would say the same thing. But when somebody is able to take a memory that's been stuck on replay with all this stuff underneath it, and they can heal it and they can adapt it, they float out of my office.
I was just going to say, they must feel like they're on top of the world.
Physically, I think they notice it almost immediately. So when you think about the impact of trauma and that weight, we don't even know the weight we're carrying around sometimes. Right. That heaviness just sitting inside their body. Yeah. So to be unburdened or released, it's cool. And I see it. Like
you would think, and then you would think too, sorry not to interrupt you, Lori, but I mean, you would think too, but based on some of the research and stuff that I've done as well, is that it would create more space in the body, if you will, because now all of a sudden you release this big heaviness. So there's got to be almost a euphoric state because there's now oxygen flowing to places maybe that necessarily didn't have as much oxygen before, right? Yeah. Because literally there was a block there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the stuff that, if you want to heal your body, you got to heal your pain. Right. They're not exclusive. We know that. That's why we're working together, right?
That's right.
We need each other's work to help people get that clearing within their system. Yeah, I love giving people the power to know that they have control over more than they think they do. Right?
Absolutely. They absolutely do. Our bodies are a powerful thing. Okay, so I've got a question here. So we're going to pause for just a second. So the question is, how many sessions of EMDR do people typically need before they see a difference?
Yeah, that is a great question because EMDR is sort of celebrated or recognized for being a little bit quicker than traditional talk therapy, because you can do healing work in traditional talk therapy. But the idea of EMDR is because so much of the work is inside your brain. So I didn't actually go into all the details, but as we're processing, we're not speaking a lot, right? Like I'm guiding, but there's not a lot of conversation. So that actually makes things go a little faster because you can process quicker in your brain than you can by speaking. So it is a depends answer. I have definitely had people in my office. So EMDR, I should say, is a therapeutic approach. So what that means is there's some preparation work, there's some closure work, and then there's the actual moving of your fingers in front of people's eyes. So in terms of sessions, I would say I would never do probably fewer than 4, including like kind of preparing, getting ready, and closure. But I have seen people release the trauma from their body within 1 EMDR session.
That's fantastic.
And that's kind of why I try not to rush it though, because it's almost like if you do a good job of preparing and you get the right network in the brain, that you get the right targets that you want to work on, you can find healing pretty quickly, actually.
That's fantastic. I love
it. So I don't even know if I would say an average with my clients, because I think I would say an average is probably somewhere around 5 to 10. Yeah, that would
Okay.
probably be fair. But what happens is people feel so good after they've released one thing, they go, can we work on this now?
Right,
So,
exactly. I was actually just going to say, how many people do you have like, coming back because now all of a sudden they've released this one big thing and it's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right?
yeah,
So then all of a sudden new stuff keeps popping up, whether you're conscious of it or not, but you've got to feel so good
yeah,
that now you're recognizing, oh, wait a minute, I've got this from, maybe from high school or junior high school or something that's popping up. Let's see if we can get rid of that. So that's fantastic.
yeah. And truly the idea of EMDR, because we are healing networks in the brain, because sometimes this is a thing people will say to me, like, is this going to last? How do I know I'm not going to feel, bad again about this? And I say, just go and see, right? Like, but the idea, and that's why it's different than talk therapy, because we're getting to the root. We're healing the hurt at the root, and we're caring for it and we're reprocessing it. So, I mean, I've been doing this for over a year and a half-ish now, and I haven't had anybody come back and say, we need to do it again. Like once it's cleared, it's cleared. Yeah, it's really powerful.
The brain is so powerful, right? I mean, I've studied Dr. Bruce Lipton as well too, and the genetics and the brain connection and the brain body connection. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
I love that we're here. Yeah, this is a good place for us to be as a profession, that we're using the brain. Yeah, the brain's already designed to do what it's supposed to do. We just had to figure out how to use it more effectively.
Right. I'm just going to see, Stacy, did that answer your question? Poor thing, I got everyone blocked.
I was gonna say, I can't see the question, so.
Well, some people don't mind being a part of the webinar and some other people would rather not, so.
I get that. I didn't have a choice.
No, you did not. Did that answer? I'm just gonna chat her here.
Sure.
Okay, she said thank you, it did. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so EMDR.
Yep.
And then I think you're going to talk about another.
Yep. I could talk about another therapy that I've been using more and more recently. So everything's a journey. I'm sure you relate to this. You kind of start down one path and then you kind of turn down another path. So actually EMDR, my work with EMDR, because it's been so powerful and it's been so effective, has led me to more training and learning and just kind of fine tuning my skills. And I have landed in another therapeutic approach, which I'm finding is really shifting things for people. I was thinking about this earlier when we were kind of talking about the EMDR, that a lot of my clients, they kind of look at me like, I don't know what happened, but I feel better. Like, it's kind of like, what did you do to me? So when I talk about internal family systems is another way of working with people's systems. Okay.
Yeah.
So in internal family systems, when I say that title, people sometimes think it means that I'm talking like marriage and family counseling, like that I'm doing something with families, but it's actually called internal family systems because it's about your own internal system, which means you almost got like a little family operating inside of you. So when I say to people, we relate to this idea, there's a part of me, okay, this is true. There was a part of me that's really excited to be on Catherine's webinar and talking about trauma, but there's also a part of me that's really nervous and takes too many things on and said, why am I doing this, right? Like, it's normal to have kind of conflicting parts. So the idea of the internal family system approach is that when we are exposed to traumatic things in our life. So think about this in the context of fight or flight and survival. If I'm a little kid and I'm experiencing shame or, bullying or ridicule, I develop parts of my system to make sure I never experience that again, right? So that can look different in different people, but maybe for me, it looks like, okay, so I never want to feel that again. Then I'm going to make sure I am such a good, giving, kind, generous person that nobody ever has any reason to treat me bad. We sort of develop these parts of our personality system to protect us from those hurts.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
It really, it's a lovely, compassionate way of looking at behavior. That's not just, You're not, that guy's not a nice person, or that person's a drug addict, or this person is whatever, when you can look at behavior as, this is the person's survival. And I just really enjoy using the language and helping people identify their parts, because there's no bad parts, right? Our parts, thank God we have our parts. Like even the angry part protects me from something in my life. So what we do in therapy and working with EMDR is that we would get to know these parts' roles in our system. And the funny thing about parts, especially protective parts that are really like sometimes doing behaviors that other people don't like, or maybe we don't like.
Right.
I've been using this example with my clients lately, that I have a part, anxiety. Most of us have a part that looks like anxiety. When does anxiety like to visit us? 3:00 in the morning. When things are nice and quiet. It's like, hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
So how do you feel anxiety? When I feel anxiety, I feel a pit. And I'm sure everyone out there would know that feeling, just that pit in your stomach.
Yeah.
So again, how do you experience these things? You usually feel it physically first, if you're paying attention. And then you kind of go, okay, so anxiety, I see you, I hear you. What are you here for? So when you can think about anxiety, what do we usually do? We learn grounding strategies. We, do whatever we can to kind of manage and calm it. But when I work with parts in a trauma lens, what I'm actually doing is understanding what that trauma's role is. So I know my anxiety has a role, and my anxiety is often saying, don't forget to do this. You need to prepare for this. You need to do a good job of this. And what is that anxiety so scared of? Well, it's probably scared of me failing or making a fool of myself, right?
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing, because I'm right there with you.
Well, this almost could be like a therapy session, because when I start talking about parts to people, the first reaction is usually like, what you talking about, lady? Like, what, are you saying I have a split personality disorder? And I say, no, that's not what this is about.
Right.
It's about understanding that we all have parts, and those parts are just trying to help us get through life. And thank God we have those parts, but we can help those parts when we start to understand why they're there, what they do. And I mean, even some of the research behind this method, this internal family systems, that they would say sometimes when you have pain, sometimes when you have unexplained pain, sometimes when you have unexplained disease, sometimes that's a part that's trying to get your attention. Like if you don't pay attention to what's going on inside of here, these parts of yourself will get your attention, and they do a really good job of getting it. So what we want to do is give them their attention before they try to take it from us. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
I can absolutely relate to that one as well too. So
I know, I think it's super cool. That's why I love working with it. And again, I feel the shifts in people. When people are able to shift their views about themselves, that's healing in itself. Like you're not broken. Nobody's broken.
nobody's.
We all have this pure centeredness that exists inside of us. It just gets crowded out sometimes, and we need to find the space to find it again. So it's it's a compassionate method. I think of like Gabor Mate, who works, with trauma, and like I love his work, because when he works with people who have addiction, he sees people who have trauma, and I think that's true. It's a really caring way of being able to help people.
Yeah, he's amazing. But as I'm listening to you, Lori, who couldn't use this, right? Because again, we all have, like you said, those internal parts of ourselves. Yeah. And we're human beings here having an experience. So of course we're all going to experience in different ways. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I need to make an appointment with Lori. I want to experience this.
Yeah, me too, actually. Because when I was doing the training, I was like, I want to go do my own IFS therapy, but yeah, I got to find somebody who can do that therapy with me, because I don't have time to do my own therapy.
Right.
Nor should I.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do like where we're heading in the world, because I think we've always sort of stayed in a pathological top-down, doctor knows best. And I think we're shifting some of that awareness to like trusting in our own centered experiences to heal. And I think there's room for everyone, right? Like there's
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's about prevention too, right? And I know everyone hears me talking about prevention, and but it is so key. And that's why I said to God, I want to come and try that. Well, again, we all have parts to heal.
Yeah.
Right. And if you are proactive sometimes too with that stuff, you can
Yeah.
maybe head something off before it becomes too big. And
Yeah.
then you get to a point where, you don't even know what you feel anymore, if that makes any sense. But
Well, it does. And you think about like, we should have therapy and mental health services. Like people should have a physical health provider, but we should also have access to a mental health provider because there's not nearly enough access to mental health providers. But that's what you're saying. Like
right.
if we had annual checkups, if we had,
Exactly.
an ability to kind of work through this stuff before it became a crisis, or even the understanding and awareness of, I do need to take care of my parts and my system. And,
Right.
oh, wait, I've been through trauma? Because I mean, most people would say, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never experienced a trauma. And then I might say, have you ever felt embarrassed? Have you ever made a
Right.
fool of yourself? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
those things. And we just don't have that language yet. But I think it
Right.
would go a really long way in
Yeah.
preventing disease, preventing,
Yeah.
health issues. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make a note here too, because at the end, I'd like to talk about coverage for people,
Sure.
and how you see people. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I don't want to take you off your path
No.
here, but
That's okay. I'm not sure if I had anywhere else in particular I wanted to go, actually. Any questions that are coming up for you?
Well, obviously, I'm very interested in EMDR and IFS now. So thank you for the education. I know it certainly made a couple of light bulbs go off in my head,
Yeah,
for sure.
awesome.
And certainly, as I see clients that are suffering as well too, I'll certainly be sending them your way, because I think that it's very important. And I know, from a family perspective, friends, and as well clients, you mentioned therapy to people.
Yeah.
And some people don't have a very good experience.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's such a, I guess, let me put it this way. There's such a connotation, unfortunately, still in our world today about therapy. And, to me, going for therapy is just as equally important as having your yearly examination, right? You're taking care of your other part. And, we talk a lot about, taking care of your feet through reflexology or, all the other different modalities that are out there, but we don't often take enough time to talk about the health of one's brain and the connection that it has to the overall body, right?
And it's so important. I mean, I think it's a significant contributor, like just thinking about the stress, like how our society has changed, how our roles has changed. Like, it almost feels like it's right in front of us, but yet we just haven't figured out how to get the right flow so that people get their needs met on a consistent basis.
I mean, I even think about, with some of my clients, we talk about lifestyle changes, right? So sometimes that lifestyle change needs to be food.
Yeah.
Right. But also look at the relationship that people have with food.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that's very trauma driven, or you reach for those comfort foods that don't often make you feel any better. They actually make you feel worse.
Yeah.
But it's a program, right? It's a program in the brain and how we feel and how we associate maybe an experience with, maybe greasy food or, what have you, or food that really isn't good for you, right? Especially if you are, gluten intolerant, but yet when you, right, when you're having a moment or a traumatic event, or maybe it's a trauma that's stored in the body that's reappearing.
Yep. What
are some of those things, right? So it could be food, it could be alcohol, could be drugs, could be a number of any, of any addictions that are out there, because that's exactly what it is. But again, it's the health of our brain and our mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
You actually just described an important part of like internal family system therapy, because there is we have parts. So we have parts that want to do things, but we also have parts that want to turn off bad feelings as fast as they possibly can. And hello, that's where we start gravitating towards alcohol or, drugs or food, anything that kind of gets, we call it emotional eating, but it's actually deeper than that, right? Like it's I don't want to feel this and I need to do whatever is going to soothe me. And that's okay, but we got to heal the hurt in order to heal the problems, right? Or to heal the behaviors. So that's really cool. That's totally where I come from as well.
Okay, interesting. And then I also think too, Lori, about just something else that kind of popped up. It's people wanting to experience pain body over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'll just give this as an example. It's, you set yourself a plan, you're going to work out, you're going to, do all these great things that, makes you feel so good.
Yeah.
And, maybe you get day one in and you're feeling great. And then the next day you're like, right?
Yeah.
But is that, because that's something I hear a lot of, right?
Yeah.
A lot. And sometimes I wonder if that is the pain body being stored, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like monkey mind that's saying, oh, no, you don't. You're not changing, the behavior, because
Yeah.
if you change the behavior, I lose control.
Yeah.
So it's that physical self then that's saying, hang on a second here.
Yeah.
Can't lose that physical control.
There is sort of a school of thought, in trauma world and everywhere, is like we kind of create familiarity. So when you see people kind of making patterns or choices that seem to be like, you start going on the right track and then you kind of make a bad decision. Oftentimes it's because we're called back. We're trying to make repairs. They're like attachment repairs, right? So I think that's sort of what you're saying too. Like sometimes we kind of go, why do I sabotage myself? Or why do I keep dating these losers? Or why do I, why do I keep getting shitty bosses? Well, sometimes it's just because we gravitate because we're trying to make those repairs in those relationships. So when we understand that, then we can start using a different pattern. So yeah, it's really cool actually having this conversation with you, because we kind of come at it from two totally different kind of approaches, but we're actually saying and seeing the same things.
The same thing. Well, and the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because I hear it a lot, and I'm wondering if, EMD, let me see,
EMDR.
EMDR and IFS, right, could certainly help people to get a handle on it a lot faster, because again, it's going to go to the root of the problem and help. So that's the only reason why I brought that up. So thank you for explaining that. Yeah. Again, so that hopefully if, some people are watching this, that it resonates with them, and then they can reach out to you for some additional help on that. So
absolutely.
So having said that, any questions from anybody that's on the phone with us tonight? We'll ask that first while we're waiting to see if there's any additional questions, Lori. So how can people, get in touch with you? Do you do remote, like through Zoom with people too, or do they have to be in your office?
We do a little bit of both. So I think COVID kind of forced us all to get a little more comfortable with Zoom technology. So I'd probably say I'm about 50-50. I see about 50% of people online right now and 50% in office. And we do use social distancing. So when people come to the office, we follow protocol. I'm not the only therapist in my office. So at Rising Tides Healing Center, we also have Rising Tides counseling services. So I think I have 7 other counselors now other than me. And a couple of them are also getting trained in EMDR right now. I have a little bit of a wait list just because I've been doing this for a while and the word is starting to get around, which is great. And I mean, I love working with people and I'm glad they're reaching out, but we're going to be able to service more people. And we're really excited about that. We're really trying to grow a team here that really can be the experts in providing this trauma-based care to clients and providing information with other partners as well. So you can reach us. Our website is www.risingtidesnb.com. So it's just in the process of getting revamped. It's there now, but it's going to look different a few months from now as we continue to bring in some other multidisciplinary partners. So that's the vision of the Healing Center, is that, we're the trauma therapists, but we want to work with partners. So we've got some yoga classes going on. We've got Reiki. We've got the thermography clinics happening here. We've got a nutritionist on board, and we're just kind of growing it, see where it goes.
Perfect. Well, I mean, people, once they're getting rid of some of these things that are dragging them down, my goodness, right? They'll be wanting to take, advantage of some of the other stuff that's happening there. And even if not, I mean, I'm, all joking aside, right? I mean, it's there for everybody, and it certainly works wonders. So just so that everyone knows, your center is located in Grand Bay, Westfield.
Yes. Yep.
And again, for anybody who's listening and is interested in having an EMDR or an IFS session with you and or your therapist, they can reach out to you onto the website, and they do not have to be in the Grand Bay Westfield area. In order to do that, they can do a remote session with you through Zoom.
Yep, I actually do see a fair number of people outside this area, and it's great that we have this technology now. The work we do is primarily based in New Brunswick, but yeah, it's funny because I found before COVID, it was sort of hard to sell people on virtual services because people do like connection and coming to the
Of
office.
course they do. Yeah.
But we're very adaptable people. It just goes to show that we can kind of change our habits and behaviors when we have to. And I have found a lot of clients really
That's
appreciate
right.
the
Perfect.
virtual sessions.
So another question for you, because I know that this will be one of the questions, coverage. So are the services covered under most medical plans?
Yeah, most medical plans are covered. We in the therapy world, there's never a cut and dry answer because I have a master of social work. So that's my degree. My degree is covered under most insurance plans. Some people have plans that will only cover a psychologist. I have counseling therapists on my team. So sometimes they're covered under other plans. So what we always tell people is just give us a call. You know, we'll give you the credentials. You can check with your insurance company if you're not sure. But most, I would definitely say over 80% of people who have insurance benefits can be covered through our services.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've got another question here. So that's great because that's good timing.
Okay.
Can a client do EMDR through Zoom?
Yes, that's been a really cool learning for me too. I was a little nervous, I'll admit. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but how EMDR virtually works is rather, I don't even think you can see, like we usually do a back and forth eye movement, but you're probably seeing the drag. It doesn't work so well. So actually for EMDR to be effective, we just need a bilateral stimulation. And again, connecting it to the physical, it's two sides of the body. So if you can see my arms, I usually do butterfly taps. So I have the client, I usually tap with them. I have the client do some butterfly tapping. So we can do it with audio. We can do it with sound. We can do it as long as it's tapping into the two sides of the brain.
Two sides of the brain. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's working.
Excellent.
Yep.
That is excellent news. Yeah, so this is fantastic. Thank you, Stacy, for the questions as well, too. Hopefully that answered your question. Let me just see here. Yep, it did. So that's great. So Lori, I don't have any other questions, and I don't think there's any other questions from the group on the phone either. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that maybe I kind of cut you off? I got so excited about talking about the EMDFR. So
I don't think so. I mean, I guess when I get going, like I said, there's always that part of me that's like, what am I going to talk about? What am I doing this? And then I get ramped up and I get really excited and I have lots to say. I guess what I would say is if anyone is interested, reach out to us, follow our social media pages, like stay connected with us because we really do want to build a community. And, if you want to learn more, like I'm happy to talk about this because I am very excited about what we can do, using these modalities. So.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So I'll tell you what, I'll book an appointment with you. Okay.
Okay.
And I will make a commitment to people that I will use my experience and we'll videotape it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing with people because, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We all have things that we have to deal with, whatever that is, whether it's, guilt, anger, sadness, whatever it is, we all experience it our lifetime. We all do.
Yep.
How we do it is just a different example, right?
Yep.
So sure. I am A-okay with doing it as long as you're okay with that.
My anxiety part just went, what is she talking about?
We can talk about the logistics later. And if we're not allowed to because of, for whatever reason, that's fine too. But certainly I would use myself as a guinea pig so that people could actually see it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we need a bar. We need a bartering system. I'll use your services, you use mine.
That's right. That's right. And I'm excited about trying that myself as well too, because I know that certainly I know a few people off the top of my mind that I would like to be able to send your way as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Lori. This was so educational and I really appreciate it. And I hope that, people that watch this understand that, therapy is just as mainstream as, going to get our yearly checkup because it is. Yeah. And it's probably, for me, I get passionate about it too, because for me, your mental state impacts every other aspect, right, of your being. And, my heart goes out to people that are dealing with, traumatic events, right? Whether it's big T's or the little T's, they all add up. Yeah. So all I would say to people watching this is please reach out to Lori and her team. Lori is a fantastic lady, and I'm not just saying that because she's sitting here in front of me. So she's got a lot of wealth of information and she truly cares about people. So Lori, again, thank you so much. I know how busy you are and you gave your time tonight to be present with us. So again, I thank you very, very much. And I thank the team that has joined here tonight, and we'll be going ahead and we'll be posting this out to social media streams so that everybody can have a chance to listen to what you had to say tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. And ditto, likewise, I really appreciate the opportunity and everything you're doing as well. So I'm honored that you invited me to be here with you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I will say good night and we'll end this session for now. So thank you, Lori.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.